Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up.
Turbo Jesse. The Legend of Zelda is a game franchise that totally tries to reinvent itself in every single installment. If you go back to the very first Zelda game, it was just a regular 2D over-the-top Zelda action-adventure. Then when you go to Zelda 2, it becomes a 2D side-scroller. And since then, The Legend of Zelda has really invented itself, or reinvented itself, in every further installment. They really try to change the game, try to change the mechanics every new game. You can't say the same about some of other Nintendo's franchises. So in this video, I'm going to take a deep look at some of my favorite new mechanics, my favorite new gimmicks that make every single Zelda game so special. Hey, if you're new to my channel, definitely think about subscribing, hitting that like button. I have a lot of new Zelda content leading up to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Part 2, the sequel of the Breath of the Wild Part 1, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we have a lot of Zelda content coming up, but let's get into this video and take a look at some of Zelda's best mechanics and gameplay mechanics and features that make each game so. Let's start with the Legend of Zelda game that really changed everything and kind of changed the course of gaming forever. And I'm talking about Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. This game kind of looked like a remake, a redesign, a reimagination of the original Zelda game. You beat a few dungeons, you got past Ganon, and you're like, oh, this game's pretty short, only a few dungeons. Then bam! The whole game changes and you get Dark World and you're like, what is going on? I remember back in the day playing this game, I was like, I can't believe I'm only halfway through. This is unbelievable. That twist to have Hyrule and then go to Dark it just blew my freaking mind. And it's still like such a creative way to get gameplay being flowing and really give you like a push to really finish this game and wanting to know what is going to happen next. I remember thinking this game is so amazing, no game can ever top this. Little did I know, and just a few years later when Zelda made it to the Nintendo 64, things would change all over again. There's not much I could say here about Zelda Ocarina of Time that hasn't already been said. Zelda and Link's first foray into 3D was awesome. This game was everything I wanted it to be. I loved playing as young Link, going through his adventure as a child, then bam! You get the Master Sword and you actually time travel. Now you're old Link. So in this game, you're actually able to be young Link and old Link, and it is so freaking cool. I remember when I first was able to use the time mechanic, just staying there by the pedestal with the Master Sword, just transforming from young Link to old Link, back to young Link, back to old Link, over and over and over again. Just so awesome. You could visit old locations when you were young and then visit them again while you're old and really see all the changes. This is kind of similar to how in Link to the Past you're able to kind of do that, and the locations are different from Hyrule to Dark, but now it's time travel. I mean, this is one of the first games I can remember where like time travel was used in a video game and used so freaking well. This is like Back to the Future where you're able to go to different places in time and they're totally different. This mechanic was something that was just so creative and so innovative at the time that's really mind-blowing. They were able to pull it off and turn it into such a freaking masterpiece. Ocarina of Time will always have a very special place in my heart and one of my favorite Zelda mechanics that they ever created. This next mechanic is kind of a small one. I'm only going to talk about it a little bit, kind of shortly, and that's the Minish Cap, when Link is able to shrink down to the size of a little Minish. If you couldn't tell, there were a few puns thrown in there. This is one of my favorite handheld Zelda games of all time. This is a game that has heavily been rumored to be being remade for the Nintendo Switch for the ground up, and I really hope that happens. I really enjoy this game. I like being able to see those little holes and be able to shrink down to Minish size, small Link, and be able to do these little puzzles as this little ant-sized Link. This is just such a fun mechanic, and you know, with the power of a handheld, it's harder to put huge graphics and make a huge vast game. So for them to be able to come up with something so creative is really, really mind-blowing, and I say that a lot. There were actually some early rumors or in development for Breath of the Wild. There was going to be Minishes, and you might be able to shrink down, but that just never happened. So maybe in Breath of the Wild Part 2, you will be able to shrink to the size of a Minish, or maybe the Minishes will be in that game, setting up, rumors or speculation that a Minish Cap remake is in development. Who knows? But this is just a fun mechanic, something like different, something totally out of the blue. Like first you were able to go from light world to dark world, then you were able to time travel, and they're like, you know what, screw all that. This time we're just going to shrink you down to the size of an ant. You're going to do ant-sized puzzles. Minish Cap is a true classic, and I really hope we get a remake so a whole new generation of Zelda fans can just see how great this freaking game is. When the GameCube generation of Legend of Zelda was upon us, everybody was expecting a big, gritty, realistic Zelda game, but that's not what we got at all. We got Toon Link. Yeah, that's right, Toon Link. And this game was so innovative. So most games we were able to play on the land, we were able to shrink down, play at the time, but this game we were able to go into the ocean, go onto the high seas and navigate on a sailboat. And this was just so fun. If you think about it, this was The Legend of Zelda's first toe in the water, no pun intended, for an open world game where you as Link was able to freely sail from island to island, discovering whatever there was out there, discovering chests, discovering treasure, discovering islands of bad guys to defeat. It was just so fun to have this freedom. And the sailing, oh my god, the sailing was awesome. I know the original version, sailing kind of took a long time. I'm talking a really long time. I was playing this game in college, and I remember having to sail for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes to get to your next destination. But there was something always on the way. There was always a distraction. Either a sea monster, a treasure to find, or a new NPC to speak to really open it. But there was something about the sailing that was so relaxing. Something about the art style and how the water flows with you that made these sails very enjoyable. Granted, at the HD remake for the Wii U, it was a little better that you could actually speed this up and make the wind, just push you a little bit faster, get to your destination just a little bit quicker. This is another game that's really rumored to be coming out on the Nintendo Switch. I know Jeff Grubb, who's a Nintendo insider, recently says that he really expects the Wind Waker HD to be coming to the Nintendo Switch this year, in the next few weeks actually, so I'm really excited to play this game again. I would love to play Wind Waker one more time this year before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, just to get a refresher. This is a game I haven't played to completion in 15 years since it was on the GameCube, and I am ready to become Pirate Link again, Toon Link again, and just go on this Toon Link adventure just one more time. And just sail, man. Maybe I'll just put on some relaxing music and just sail for like 20 minutes one night after a stressful day. This is just another example of how the developers of Zelda just reinvent itself time after time after time. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is not one of my favorite Zelda games, and it's not one of my favorite game-changing mechanics. Changing to Wolf Link never really did it for me. I know it was the time in gaming where those type of games, beat-em-ups, were getting really popular with the God of Wars, so the Zelda team wanted to kind of do something like that. Granted, this game is much better than Sonic Unleashed when you get Wolf Sonic, but, I'm not a huge fan of Wolf Link and this game in general. I also think the graphics look a little washed out and dated. This is another game that's heavily rumored to be coming to Nintendo Switch in a port of an HD version, so we'll have to wait and see. Alright, here's the biggest game-breaking reinvention in the whole Legend of Zelda franchise for me personally, and that's Breath of the Wild. The ability to make Hyrule totally open world. To take what Witcher 3 did, Grand Theft Auto did, Skyrim did, and just turn that into a freaking Zelda game was mind-blowing. No more do you have a set path where you have to go from one dungeon to the next dungeon in a particular order. This game gave the player freedom to do whatever they wanted, and we all did. A lot of us went to one Divine Beast first, and someone else went to the Zora Domain first. Just gave you so much freedom, and 120 shrines, I love them, alright? I love shrines, what can I say? I love dungeons, being able to play them for an hour or two, figuring out all the puzzles and finally beating them. But there's something about a quick shrine that you can kind of get in and out of in just like 10-15 minutes, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. Just really reinvigorated me and really brought out my love for this franchise. The creative puzzles that were in each one and the variety, it just really was eye-opening and honestly mind-blowing. And just the world of Hyrule, where there's different things to discover around every turn, where you could play this game for 150 hours and still find brand new things. This game opened up exploration for me personally like I've never experienced in a game. I have played Skyrim, I did play Witcher 3, and liked those open worlds and thought they were fun. Sometimes I was intimidated, there was too many things to do and I didn't want to do anything, but I never felt that in Breath of the Wild. I was always excited to find that next shrine, go to the next tower, scout out the next shrines, find the bad guys I couldn't beat, return to them later when I was stronger. I just love Breath of the Wild. And the fact that they were able to totally reinvent this franchise another time. So the big question is, will the sequel to Breath of the Wild be able to reinvent this franchise one more time? I don't know, only time will tell. And if you couldn't tell, I've been saying the word time a lot because my hunch is that time travel is going to be a big part of Breath of the Wild 2, and I just can't wait to see what those freaking creative Zelda developers have up their sleeve for this game when it comes out in the spring of 2023. What are some of your favorite Zelda mechanics? What are some of your favorite reinventions of the franchise? Let me know down in the comments section. I'll be sure to get back to you. I get back to every single one of my comments. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I have a lot more Zelda content in the works. If you're new to my channel, definitely think about subscribing, hitting that like button, ringing that bell, so next time I go live with content, you get it right away. Guys, this has been Turbo Jesse.